And joining us now, Speaker Emerita Nancy Pelosi.
You know what you can call her?
We're so happy
Madam
to see you.
Speaker.
Madam Speaker, we're so happy to see you, and we're so happy to hear how well Paul is doing.
Thank you.
I have been praying for your family. And
Thank you.
We're so glad to have you here.
You look great. How's he feeling? I hear he was a hit in L.A., he was a hit in D.C.
Yeah. But I'm as well as Paul is, and he's coming along, but that's fine. You know, I'm liberated. I feel great, and I'm so proud of our new leadership, and they're just doing great. But we were all thrilled last night. Wasn't the president just great? And great until he took us to a place where he had used to be. We, too, were bipartisan. We disagreed philosophically and politically.
Well,
but
you and me in particular.
I think you guys have literally been in that position.
Well, China, we came together very well in the 90s.
Yeah, way back.
Wow.
Way back.
Boy, things have changed.
But you know, let's talk about bipartisanship for a second, because when Joe Biden came in, he said, we're going to accomplish some things in a bipartisan manner. And there were a lot of people on the left that said, don't do that. You can't do any deals. You're basically saying, hey, old man, that's the way things used to be. And yet Joe Manchin was talking to you, talking to Biden. Everybody was talking. Like, you all worked through it and figured out how to get bipartisan deals done.
Well, we did some, and that has been our tradition. As you know from your experience in Congress, we have our differences, but you find your common ground, and you're always respectful of other people's views and the people who sent them to Congress.
Right.
The people who sent them to Congress. But I thought last night was great in that he was unabashed in saying we have to strive for bipartisanship. Of course we do.
It's a good message, I think, to most Americans who aren't sort of lost in the fever swamps of partisanship. But is it practical in this Congress, in this House of Representatives? You've seen a lot in your years in Washington, and you have Republicans last night who couldn't bring themselves to clap for affordable insulin, couldn't bring themselves to clap for democracy. Well, right, but things that used to unite us, American manufacturing, because so captured are they by politics and partisanship that they didn't want to be seen clapping for President Biden. So is that bipartisanship possible? Is that practically possible nowadays?
Well, I think it's going to be up to the American people. If many of you have heard me quote Lincoln all the time. Public sentiment is everything. With it, you can accomplish almost anything. Without it, practically nothing. And we just have to take that message to the American people. They will set the agenda, having the majority in the House, so it's not as if we can. For example, with the infrastructure bill, it's the bipartisan infrastructure bill. We got 13 Republican votes. The CHIPS and Science bill, they were against the bill. They argued, they were for it, but when it came to the floor, then they were against it, and then some of them came around when we proved we had the 218. So, but we have to always be hopeful because it is. There are some who do want to vote. I'm not talking about. We're talking substantively.
Well, there were, 18, 19 Republicans who won in districts that Joe Biden carried in the election. So what do you suppose they're talking about with Kevin McCarthy today, right? I mean, and with their colleagues. Do you think they can have some weight and influence on how the caucus behaves?
I would be the last person to make a judgment about the dynamic within the caucus. You saw what it took to get him elected, and it was not a problem from the moderates in the party.
Right.
So who guides him? But let's just talk about Joe Biden. Wasn't he great last night? And he was his authentic self. You know, he did talk about our accomplishments, 12 million jobs, and actually 12 million jobs, the work of the private sector as well. But a presidency that enabled that to happen. 12 million jobs, issues that relate to science and chips and how we go into the future. I thought it was, you know, if they could be objective, they would have to say this is a good.
It really was a great,
approach.
everything. Everything really came together for him. It was a great speech. He was enjoying himself. This is what he does. He's also always underestimated, and so he always, meets the moment when he's being underestimated. And I think the Republicans gave him a gift by acting, some of them, in such a childish way.
It never pays. It never. And you talk about those Republicans that won in Biden districts.
Yeah.
Those are the ones that Marjorie Taylor Greene and all the people screaming and yelling and calling the president names. It's the Republicans who suffer from that, not Joe Biden. It only makes him stronger, right?
Right, and they really cannot erase who they are. As you have shown, Lee talking about how he was going to uproot
Social Security.
And then saying, why are they talking to us about that? See, I think they protested too much last night with that. But we'll see how we go forward with the debt ceiling. I've had, in my 21 years as Speaker and leader, 19 encounters of the debt ceiling kind. And there's a way to get there, and it has to be in a bipartisan way. And Chuck wanted that. Otherwise, they could have done it under reconciliation in the Senate, and we could have easily passed it in the House. But we want to have bipartisanship. We should always strive for it. And I think that he set the tone for it by being welcoming, authentic, and, again, hopeful about getting more results after showing the progress that he had made. He's ready to run, as you can see.
Oh, yeah. Those three words, finish the job.
We won't ask that question. It is fascinating, though. Republicans only seem, I speak as a former Republican, Republicans only seem to care about the debt and the deficit when there's a Democrat in the White House. They had no problem raising the debt ceiling when Donald Trump
we did it 3 times when he was. We had 3 encounters. Had different results. But here's the thing: I'm a big pay-as-you-go person. Pay-go. Sometimes I get heat from my own caucus on that. You want something, we either substitute or pay for it. The Republicans are pay-go, except when they want to give tax cuts to the rich. Then they don't want to pay for them. So that's a big chunk of the Trump debt that has been increased. So they don't want to pay for that. But
and that is, as we've said on the show a good bit, when you raise the debt ceiling, you're not paying for future bills. You're paying for those Trump tax cuts that helped billionaires and multinational corporations disproportionately.
And you want to pay for it by taking food out of the mouths of babies. Have you seen also that they are looking at cutting food assistance and things like that, as well as Social Security and Medicare, no matter what they said last night. That has, as part of their DNA.
Yeah. So what is the future for this debt ceiling fight? Do you think at the end of the day, Republicans have no choice but to blink on this?
Well, on this particular piece of it, actually, Mitch McConnell had a really good idea. He said that the president or the administration should lift the debt ceiling. And if Congress doesn't like the way they did it, they can object. So let's just take care of it and then come back to it. As you know, when you were there, we had the the Gephardt rule that was in the budget bill. The budget bill passed, and therefore the debt ceiling was raised. The Constitution says the full faith and credit of the United States should not be in doubt. It's all clear that we shouldn't even be having this discussion because, as you say, it's to pay the bill. It's not for anticipating any future spending.
Another discussion we shouldn't be having, but I actually think it might be really important. It may seem like a small thing, but this George Santos issue. Mitt Romney had some pretty choice words for the Republican congressman who his entire campaign was based on lies, and he's mired in ethics investigations. We can talk about the big picture and where this might have come from, where a candidate based on lies would have ever come from. Yes, but the issue now is how to handle this. Mitt Romney said he needs to go.
Well, I did hear what Mitt Romney had to say, and it's unfortunate there aren't other adults in the room when it comes to the Republicans. But here's the thing. People say, well, how could he have gotten elected? Well, Trump.
Right.
Trump was all misrepresentations about who he was and what he stood for and the rest. But there are more dangerous people on the Republican side than he is.
Right.
However, I agree with you. And I spent 7 years on the ethics committee, longer than anybody. Mostly everything, I'm longer than anybody. And honoring and respecting the House of Representatives is a very important piece of it. And people say, well, why don't we do this and that? And you say, we must. But we must also uphold a standard to be respected by the American people. They need us vote because they only have a 5-vote margin. One person is sick, sadly, so they have a 4-vote margin. And that's really what...
If this was a Democrat as Speaker, what would you do?
But I have done it in the past. I don't want to even go into it because some of it wasn't popular about just saying so-and-so that's over.
Right.
That's over.
You talked about respecting the people who sent each of you to Congress.
Yes.
And it just seems to me that the people of New York's 3rd Congressional District were completely defrauded. They elected somebody on paper who does not exist.
And they don't want him there now.
And it just seems to me to disrespect those voters to allow this to continue.
Just can't believe it.
And isn't that the job of the House? I don't know.
It is the job of the House. And again, the Republicans have criticized me in the past for making that a priority because they're why are you saying that? Because not in this case, but other cases in the past. But I think that's a place that we all have to come to. If they had a 20-vote margin, he'd be gone.
He'd be gone.
Exactly.
This isn't about values or ethics or anything else. This is just practical politics.